Once, on a planet of wisdom known as Zenla, there lived a man of nobility and courage. Now, a new being lives in his stead. Behold, the Silver Surfer.
Hello everyone, thanks so much for joining me here today as we get to talk about one of my favorite subjects, comic books. My name is Jose. I love comic books, I love talking about them, I love sharing them with you. Feel free to follow me on social media if you would like. Links are in the description below. I've also posted a link to the Marvel fan site that I have plot synopsis and character bios for these two issues we're going to be looking at today. The Silver Surfer, this was a miniseries of 2 issues done in 1988 by Stan Lee with the late great Moebius, Jean Gerard, I believe. He is French. And I have a beaten up copy of this because I've read it so much. I just thought it was so freaking cool. And it's just, I don't know how to describe it. When I saw this the first time in 1988, this thing just changed. I don't know, it just, how I viewed comic books had changed. His style, there was a lot of creativity that started in the 80s, and I was just taken aback by this. I love this miniseries so much. I've previously done a video with this before, but I really didn't care for it, so I am doing a better video, I hope. I guess that's up to you guys. So this is the cover to issue number 1, and this is using the 1998 trade paperback. So, Parable. The 1998 trade had the better color because it was exactly the same tones that was used in the miniseries. There was a re-release in 2012 for this, but it was recolored because, you know, that's what we do now, apparently. So, all right. And so here we start here with this, what looks to be a shooting star, and that's what is being said here. And this guy here says, "No, dear, it's too close. Probably a satellite falling back to the Earth." And so we've got a narration here. "I am asleep when it first appears. I sleep too much these days. For some, sleep is a resting from the day's endeavors. For me, it's an escape from reality. But from this reality, I shall find no escape." And so here in this observatory, do you see it? Of course, I've been tracking it for years. And this guy here says, "Good, so you know what it is?" And the old guy says, "No, only what it isn't. It isn't a meteor. Then it must be some space station hardware falling from orbit," as he points at it. "Impossible. The trajectory is all wrong. Look at this. It's a spaceship. But the size of it," he says, "it must have been built for a race of giants. And it's heading straight for Earth. Incredible," says this guy here. You can already see this art is way different than anything Marvel had done. Also, this was done in the so-called Marvel method, where him and Stan Lee sort of plotted it together, and then Stan Lee scripts it after Moebius gives him the art here. So, within seconds, the news is out. A gigantic alien spacecraft is about to land among us. At first, the report is greeted with disbelief, but it soon turns to shock, fear, and mounting terror. And still I sleep. And so you can see that people here are afraid. Look at this. This is just incredible. Senses numbered by horror films and science fiction tales, mankind expects the worst. Overnight, the thin veneer of civilization is stripped away to be replaced by brutal, mindless anarchy. Oh, that's just great with a little humor there. So you can see already that there's been riots and stuff, and so you can see abandoned cars, just similar to what you would probably picture would happen in real life here. So the sounds of riots and mayhem disturb my slumber. Slowly I awake. I look around. The city is a shambles. I feel no surprise. I have seen too much of man's insanity. So we see sort of like a homeless guy, and we see sort of what we assume to be the Silver Surfer. We see the board all wrapped up here. I have little compassion for them. All their wounds are self-inflicted. The stench and squalor no longer touch me. In my mind, I can always escape. So we see here in the solid borders to be real life. And here he's just using his imagination, returning back to, is it Zenla? Memories of the past are now my shelter. For the body may wither, but love is eternal. And so here we have the cops here. Move it, creep. Hey, scuzzbag, we're talking to you. So, even then, the fear of a police state in the 80s, nothing changes, people. Everything stays the same here. So, this cop goes, "What's this thing?" He's got wrapped up. And the other guy goes, "Looks like we caught us a looter. Must be something he stole," he says. "Okay, punk, on your feet. We're taking you in." And this guy goes, "Too heavy for an ironing board. I'll open up and see what it is." And this guy in the Silver Surfer just kind of here. And he grabs him here. He goes, "Hey." And the surfer grabs it and he goes, "It's mine." And here in his thoughts, "I don't want to hurt them, but if I must." And he says, "My arm." His grip was like, and this guy's like, "Resisting arrest, huh? Okay, mister, you just bought it." So, beautiful art here. From high above, a mighty roar, a blinding light. This is just perfect. You can see the Silver Surfer running away. "I am forgotten. All is forgotten. Human flesh is stunned into immobility. I vanish into the night." This is just beautiful. The great ship descends. Earth will never be the same again. Is it ever? This is just, look at this. This is just beautiful, 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 beautiful. So, and the colors are fantastic, which is why I chose this version to go with you. Because again, this is more to how the original was colored. So, incredulous and uncomprehending, the crew of a traffic helicopter is closest to the hovering behemoth which seems to blot out the sky above. "What is it?" one says. "I dunno, but we ain't staying around to find out," says the pilot. Never before have human eyes beheld such a sight. The only thought in every mind is to run, flee, seek shelter, anything to escape the numbing, nightmarish apparition. Let me try it again. Apparition which slowly descends lower, lower, lower. Oh, this is just, look at this. This is just glorious. Beautiful art. Rest in peace, Moebius. Rest in peace. And this guy's like, "The sound is deafening. We're doomed, doomed," says this guy. "It's bigger than a mountain. Something is coming out." And so here we go. Oh, isn't this just gorgeous? Galactus coming, sort of teleporting down and just says, "I am Galactus." Oh, look at this. So elegant, so simple, just, it's just beautiful. "The moment is mine, the power is mine, the majesty is mine. Oh my God, look at this as he teleports right in the middle of this city. And look at the people here, just like, huh, and this guy's just having a cigarette. But most everyone is just like, what the heck? And Galactus says, too long have you wallowed in war, endured poverty, been beset by crime. In return for your homage, I bring you a new era. Oh, this is just beautiful. My God, what a master storyteller. Just beautiful, beautiful stuff. So, the newscaster here says in every battle zone throughout the world, fighting has ceased. There have been no new acts of terrorism. No one dares incur the displeasure of Galactus, for no one knows the extent of his power. Almost overnight, a new religion has sprung up around the awesome being, making him an object of worship. And so this guy here is watching the TV here and says, this is the chance I've been waiting for. I can't let those other charlatans get the jump on me. Galactus can make me the greatest evangelist of all. Oh, of course. So, the lady here says, he frightens me, Colton. He seems so cold, so merciless. He displays not a single shred of emotion. And he says, you know nothing of such things, Elena. So, this guy wants to be a mighty preacher because why not? That is, after all, the religion is basically the controlling of people because people allow themselves to be controlled by religion. It's a fact of life. Religion. This is what religion has always been. And religion is about control. Religion is about power, and people allow it. This is a self-inflicted. It's very hard for me to feel sympathy for people that are in cults and people that give away their possessions to churches or to religious organizations, whether it be Christian, Muslim, Jewish. It doesn't matter. Religion. The whole point of religion is to control the masses, but it only works if the masses allow themselves to be controlled, and people have shown nothing throughout history than them being nothing but glorified sheep, and that is an unfortunate thing. But whose fault is it? Is it the preacher's fault, or is it the person who follows the preacher? Well, who do you blame? Well, I don't know. I tend to have people that allow themselves to be controlled is, it's on them. So this is just perfect. And the 80s were the era of televangelism, where these ministers and preachers were all over TV and people just, it was just... That was a big thing during the 80s. So you see a lot of movies, a lot of stuff where there was a ton of televangelists. So that was the thing that when people were making fun of religion or making a commentary on religion, they always used televangelism because it was so huge in the 80s. So... All right, so this Colton here says, my TV ministry once reached millions around the globe, but the public is fickle. I've been losing converts. Galactus will change all that. And Aliana says, how, Colton? Why do you speak in riddles? You are my brother and I love you, but I have never understood you. Wait till my next telecast, he says here. I walk among them, but always apart. And so... I have given them up for lost a long time ago. It's Colton Candle on TV, and so all these people now, he's of course taking advantage here. Galactus has come to answer my prayer. It is I who summoned him. Praise the Lord. And so some dare to question. Their bodies are battered. Their voices are stilled. Why should we believe blindly? What if he's, and this guy's like, kill the lousy anti-god. Galactus will save us all. This is just beautiful. We are his children. He will lead us to nirvana. I say unto you, he is the way, the wonder. Heed his prophet. I sing his true glory. And here we go. I come to set you free, free from guilt, free from worthless man-made laws. If you would be saved, do what you will, take what you will. There is no wrong, there is no sin. Pleasure is all. So speaks Galactus. Now, I'm gonna tell you this part. I know this is just part of the story. This is not. I can't imagine Galactus doing this. Galactus would come to eat the Earth. I mean, he wouldn't come to sort of raise a religion, but that's all right. This story is not really considered canon. This is just a fun project between Moebius and Stan Lee. So the madness begins. Freed of all inhibitions by the pronouncement of the God figure, I see sanity giving place to savagery. Looting, pillaging, and plunder are the order of the day. It is the age of Galactus. People don't need excuse. Any excuse to destroy is, it's what humans do. It's what humans have done throughout the history. So, all these stories that people come up with from all these different times where humans just engage, it's because it's human nature. Writing and drawing and art is just showing you human nature. And yes, humans are capable of a lot of fantastic stuff, but we're also capable of some horrendous crap. So, all right. Voices of reason are shouted down by the deafening roar of violence until martial law brings an uneasy halt to the carnage. A fearsome quiet falls over the ravaged lands. And so here comes the evangelist here. It is good to have you come. The president has called an emergency meeting. And Colton's like, the president, he counts for nothing since the coming of all-powerful Galactus. So... But Reverend Caldwell, we must find a way to restore order again. We will do so when Galactus decrees, not before. And the guy's like, but humanity has wanted his coming since the dawn of time. He is the power. It is not for man to question his words or his will. His law is absolute, and I am his prophet. And the Silver Surfer says, you lie, false prophet, you bring shame to your calling. And this guy's like, who is this ranting derelict? How did he get in here? The building has been totally secured. And Colton says, no matter. Guards, silence the heretic. And Aliana says, no, Colton, there's been enough killing. He is only one man, one voice. He cannot harm you. And he says, suit yourself, Elena. He is beneath my notice. I have a new world to create. And Silver Surfer says, you are merciful. I thought that quality had vanished on Earth. And she says, who are you? Why do you oppose my brother? And Silver Surfer says, your brother is driven by a lust for power. In the name of religion, he would subvert mankind. And she says, how can you be sure of this? And Silver Surfer says, how can you not? And he says, does he not espouse the teachings of Galactus, thus making a mockery of all that man has achieved? And she says, but Galactus is a god. Surely we must obey. And Silver Surfer says, obey? Obey when children destroy their schools? Obey precepts that turn brother against brother? That imprison the poor and the helpless? Yeah, this is a story as old as man itself. And she says, I have had those same thoughts, but I felt guilty because I lacked faith. And Silver Surfer says, faith without judgment merely degrades the spirit divine. I sought to forsake the human race, to leave this pathetic world to its own mad devices, but perhaps I am maddest of all, for I cannot turn away. And she says, what insane conceit possesses you? You think you can defy Galactus, she says. You think you can make a difference? And he says, yes. And he takes off his hat and tosses it. For in truth, any man can make a difference. And look at this as a Silver Surfer. Just, oh, beautiful here. It is not given to us to know whether we shall succeed or not. In failure, there is no disgrace, but can be one ultimate shame, the cowardice of not having tried. And she says, who? What are you? And he says, I am called the Silver Surfer. It is an absolutely beautiful, it's a simple, it's just him standing, taking off his stuff. It's not even a action pose or something like you could see Jim Lee having him on the board, or McFarlane, any one of these 80s actors like him doing some incredibly action pose, but the simplicity of how this splash is rendered is absolutely beautiful. And then the shadow being cast, and this is a beautiful simple splash page, just him in an angle standing there. And look at the shadow here, just glorious. So already done with issue number 1. Let's go to issue number 2. And so look at that. Oh, absolutely gorgeous. And so she says, when I was young, I heard of you, but I thought you were just a legend. And he's taking his board out. Who can know where reality ends and legend begins, says the Surfer. And he continues, do we not see with our hearts and our minds as well as our eyes? And she says, you are not of earth. There is such a purity about you. And Surfer says, purity dwells in the souls, not in the birthplace. And so this way down, I believe. Your soul is rich in warmth and kindness, Elena. I don't know. It is for such as you that the Surfer again shall soar. And here we go. This is also a beautiful panel here. Don't go. Galactus is too powerful. Men worship him. No one will help you. You'll be alone. You'll be destroyed. And the Surfer says, if we turn from battle because there is a little hope of victory, where then would valor be? Let it ever be the goal that stirs us, not the odds. Just absolutely. Stan Lee can script. My. I know he gets a lot of slack for, working off the backs of other people, but I truly think it was a collaborative effort. I don't think Stan Lee would be as great if not for others, but I also don't think others would be as great if not for Stan Lee. It is a symbiotic relationship. So, yes, Kirby had a lot to do with it. Steve Ditko had a lot to do with it, but Stan Lee, this is his scripting. This is his he co-plots this thing. I understand that Moebius puts it all together, and a lot of it could probably be Moebius, but at the end, it's a collaborative effort. So. And so the Surfer says, Galactus and I have fought before. Perhaps it is our destiny to engage in a conflict without end. His is the greatest power by far, but he fights for himself alone. I seek to save a world. A world that has turned against me, as the Silver Surfer heads toward Galactus. And the Surfer says, Galactus, I am here. And Galactus says, I knew you would come. And this is just gorgeous. This is just a beautiful panel here. Just absolutely gorgeous. And so the Silver Surfer says, why have you broken your solemn pledge? You vowed never to attack planet Earth again. And so, just gorgeous. No pledge has been broken, no attack made. I have come in peace. But damage you have done. I merely allowed the unsuspecting humans to destroy themselves in my name. That is just so awesome. And look at them. Look up above. Something flying near the all-powerful one. A white figure on a flying board. You think they'd be impressed by that. And so I've seen pictures of him. It's the Silver Surfer. And never before has mighty Galactus stooped to such deceit, says the Surfer. Never before has the great hunger so consumed me. And so you play God, having pledged not to slay Earth by force. You will do so by guile. I cannot allow it. And Galactus says, you cannot prevent it. Oh, that's beautiful. And so the guy here says, incredible. He and that board seem to be one. And so the Galactus here says, as you were once my herald, I wish you no harm. Take flight while you can. And Surfer says, Galactus, I know you are beyond good or evil, but you swore never to harm this planet. And again, he says, I have harmed no one. I never pledged to stop them from harming themselves. He's got a point there. Loopholes. Legal loopholes. Those are awesome, even in grand cosmic scales. And Surfer says, if only they could hear him, but his words were for me alone. My only recourse is to reason with them, to make them understand. Oh, buddy. Even I know that wouldn't work. And Stanley didn't even have to write that. And so the Surfer goes to plead with the humans because, hey, that always works. Galactus is mighty, his power awesome, but only the coward or sycophant worshippers power and might. What has divinity to do with the show of strength or abandonment of reason? Where is the holiness in brutality and greed? And so the Surfer continues, flawed as man may be, he has ever aspired to nobility. Despite war and crime, poverty and pestilence, the human spirit still burns bright. You must not let Galactus quench that flame. Oh, buddy. Oh, it's spoken like someone who does not know humans. And so this guy is like, he's trying to turn us against Galactus. And the other guy goes, kill the dirty, rotten anti-god. That's more like it. And the Surfer says, I speak the truth. Get lost, you sicko. Go back to where you came from. Somebody shut up that lying white-skinned freak. Just wait, Baldy. Galactus will crush you like a flea. Why wait? Let's lean on him ourselves. And so the Surfer says, you must listen while there is still time. And they're like, this guy here's like, how does a fink like that get on TV? I do know, but I'd like to get my hands on him. Somebody's got to stop his lousy, godless mouth. So guy goes here. This ain't murder. It's like squashing a dirty, rotten roach. So, I tell you, people don't change. You know, you could do this story and treat it as brand new. If you've never read the story, have somebody else, take credit, redraw it, and people would still go, oh, this story is so applicable to today. This story is applicable to every decade of human existence. So, and Surfer say, you can see the shot, but it doesn't really hit him. So once again, they respond with mindless violence. And look at this shooting at him here. That's it, man. Let's waste that sucker. The force field of my power cosmic will protect me, but how to protect them from their own insanity? So, will there never be an end to their insane fanaticism? Why do they turn to violence in the name of the the one they worship? Have they so soon forgotten the greatest power is love? Oh. They think me defenseless because I do not strike back, but I dare not unleash my power cosmic against them. They are not evil, merely unthinking. And truly, they know not what they do. Oh, that is so Jesus-like. When he's being crucified and he tells God, they know not what they do. So, and Galactus says, enough! Let the firing cease. Galactus needs no mortal weaponry to strike on his behalf. My former herald has challenged me for the final time. So you can see Galactus using his own mighty powers. I feel no anger. Let's try that again. So Galactus says, I feel no anger. Not for me is the tyranny of base emotion, but the great hunger gnaws, and I must feed. Love the shadow here. Oh, this is just beautiful, beautiful panel. Thus, without rancor or wrath, I say to you, if you must die that I may live, then die you shall. Galactus must survive. And the surfer says, he cannot match my speed, but he cares little for the havoc he wreaks while striking out at me, as Galactus is destroying everything in his path. The destruction beggars description. Even those who fought for Galactus can find no safety as they flee in terror. But some there are who cannot flee. There we go. He's about to get crushed. And there are some with the speed and the power cosmic. Oh, all right. But minutes ago, I tried to kill you, says the surfer as he gets him out of the way. You struck out in the name of your god. See now what such blind devotion has wrought. Beautiful panel. Oh, it's just gorgeous work. You can't go back there. You've no chance against Galactus. And the surfer says there's always a chance while life endures. And so now the sister comes here. Colton, halt! You must come no further. The reverend prophet of Galactus is in meditation. He seeks silent spiritual guidance, a oneness with the master. And the minister's like, who has dared disturb the ritual? Who has shattered the sacred karma? Let the interloper step forward. And so Alina says, I'm sorry, Colton, I had to speak to you. And he says, you are my sister. Therefore, in the name of Galactus, I forgive you. But have care, Alina. Do not seek to take advantage of our relationship. I've come to caution you, Colton, to sound a warning. Perhaps there is a folly in following Galactus so blindly. Perhaps he is not. And he says, you can see his arm being... Be silent, Alina. You must, of all people... must not utter words of heresy. And she says, heresy? Is it heresy to think, to question? Why do supreme beings give us minds if not to use them? Are we just sheep to blindly follow the mad dictates of a stranger? As the Silver Surfer said, and Colton goes, enough! But the surfer is wise. You must open your mind, she says. Listen to reason. I'll hear no more. Your words give offense to my ears and my heart. My own sister has been devil-tainted. And she's like, no. And he's like, remove her from my sight. And Colton is like, I dare not weaken or let others lose faith. Truth is an abstraction. Power is all. Only those who believe blindly can be controlled like puppets. Only those who close their God-given minds can be enslaved by such as I. Galactus is a stepping stone in my quest for power. What does his divinity or lack of it matters? The Silver Surfer must be silenced lest he wake the masses. Um, and he goes, "Believe ye in Galactus, for his is the power." And he's like, "The power that shall be mine." Oh, I tell ya, it's as true then as it is now. It has always been. So, never before has a battle so been televised, so witnessed by the entire world. And so, look at that. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful splash here. "Hear me, my once and former herald, yield and you live, oppose me and die." And the surfer says, Death comes to all, I fear it not. Never before has my cause been so just, albeit misunderstood." Again, look at this beautiful, beautiful splash. Gorgeous. All right. "What madness possesses you to fight for those who revile and reject you? Is it mad to stand for the weak and the misguided?" says the surfer. "Then such is my choice, rather than cold and soulless sanity." And the surfer says, "Each time I evade his blast, another building crumbles. Only by fleeing can I gain time to devise a way to conquer the uncontrollable. The unconquerable." And so he says, "I hurl a final cry of defiance, and I am gone." And so the Silver Surfer has fled. The world wonders, has he escaped the awesome vengeance of the deity from space? And so there can be no hiding place from Galactus. I have but to will it, and my star-spanning cosmos craft will find the star-born fugitive. For I am power, and power is all. So you can see the ship taking off, and this is just so beautiful. "Sing ye the praises of Lord Galactus. Glory be to him who walketh among us. He is the word and the will and the way, for he hath broken the bondage of man-made law. Yeah, Galactus has set us free." Well, really? Look at this. "So my soaring board obeys me no longer. I am caught in Galactus's ship." And so this guy goes, "Our camera crews have sighted the Silver Surfer heading this way. Galactus was right. No one can escape him." "Emma, shut him up. You must be quiet, dear. They'll accuse us of heresy." "I don't care what anyone says. I hate Galactus. Please don't let him hurt the surfer." And so here on the TV, the prophet Candle has decreed excommunication for anyone who questions the word of Galactus. And so she goes, and the sister talks to this guy. "How can you follow my brother so blindly? Can't you see the harm that..." And he's like, "Don't say it. Hearing such blasphemy could cost me my life. But if everyone is too frightened to question, what will happen to us?" And they're like, "Miss Colton, where is your brother?" "The Reverend Prophet may not be disturbed." "Don't give me that bull, mister. I'm here on official business. That Galactus of yours has caused millions of dollars of damage to my city," says must be the mayor. "To say nothing of the countless lives his carnage has cost. If your phony prophet has a pipeline to that overgrown freak, I want to see him, and I mean now." So, and look at this guy. How dare malign the mighty star god and his chosen prophet? You think a petty politician like yourself has power? I'll show you what power is. In the name of Galactus, get death to the anti-god. And the mayor here says, "You're insane. Is that what you call religion? What sort of religion preaches hatred and violence?" And this guy goes, You're madder than he is to reason with a fanatic. Look, our helicopter. The prophet's sister has taken their ship. We'll pay with our lives if she gets away. Shoot her down." And so he shoots and hits her. Look at that. Oh, good aim. If this was G.I. Joe, they would have missed. All right. He stuck a vital spot. I'm losing too much blood, but I must reach Galactus. Must stop the horror. Cannot die in vain. And so the surfer's like, the power beam still draws me back. I cannot resist. And Galactus is like, never have I meant you harm, yet you have ever defied me. Pledge to challenge me no longer, and I'll grant you your life. And so the surfer is like, a pledge for a pledge, Galactus? Leave planet Earth. Vow to never return. Else I fight till I die. And so, wonderful. But here's what I've always thought. The Silver Surfer's power comes from Galactus. And yes, we've seen stories where he takes it away and all that, but it really shouldn't hurt Galactus. It's his own power. And so Galactus says, then you shall die. I could forgive your challenge, but not your insolence. And so he's just destroying this city here. Oh. And the people are like, he's toppling those skyscrapers like toys. It's a surfer he's after, but the Skyrider is too fast for him. His speed can't save him for long. Galactus is too powerful. And the surfer says, you dare speak of insolence? You who would shatter a world? And Galactus says, consequences are for lesser being. I am Galactus. That is sanction enough. Oh, just gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous. It's a great story. It's beautiful art. And the surfer says, and who are beyond artifice? I'm sorry about that. Beyond deceit, why do you let them think you a god? And Galactus says, is a god not power? Is God not might? Never have I seen a deity. How then shall I know I am not divine? And the surfer says, surely true divinity is love and grace and knowledge supreme. And yet with all your power you know not why, nor wherefore of life. And Galactus says, enough! I weary of such platitudes. It is time to end this bleak charade. But hold, what flying vessel dares approach? And she says, the pain, it won't stop. Everything growing dark. Oh, sorry here. Galactus, I've reached him at last. Sorry. The pain, it won't stop. Everything growing dark. But I close my eyes. Can't fail now. And so this guy goes, Reverend Prophet, I bring news of your sister. Not now, not during my hour of sacred meditation. But your benevolence, it is most urgent. And he's like, what can be more urgent than my holy attempt to establish divine telepathic communication with our Lord Galactus? I beg forgiveness, Reverend. Revered one. I did not know. As a prophet of the Lord, I must learn to bear such burdens. Speak your peace. Your sister, she has escaped, he says. Perhaps it is just as well. Do not pursue her. She cannot do us harm. But she has taken an aircraft. She heads for Galactus. And he says, is she blind to the danger? They await you in the command room. She was about to mutter something about stopping the battle and saving the Silver Surfer. Again, the Surfer. Is he always to plague me? Oh my god, you just met him 10 seconds ago. We have a visual radarscopic fix on the fugitive craft, Reverend Prophet. Why does the ship wobble so erratically? I hesitated to tell you, Benevolence. Elena was wounded. And so they're watching this here. At that instant, even as I hurtled toward the fateful scene, who dares, unknown and unbited, to approach my presence? Oh my god, this is so over the top. It's beautiful. Everything's going dark. I'm not afraid of death, but I mustn't die in vain. And so they're like, her ship's out of control. She's going to crash. As you have taught us, Prophet, it is the will of Galactus. And he's like, no, he can't let her die. He can't. Hear me, Galactus. Hear the cry of your prophet. Save her. Only you have the power. And so Silver Surfer sees a ship and plummets toward the earth. Galactus does know when, revered one. But look, the Surfer has spied her. Inside, a girl, Elena. My cosmic power will free her from the doomed craft. And so, but before I can unleash my power to save the girl, Galactus hits him. And you go, no. And he says, I will be defied no longer. When insurgency threatens, let power prevail. For Galactus is power, and power is all. And so you see the helicopter crash. I could have saved her, Galactus. I could have saved her, but Galactus stopped me. For a split second, I saw Alina's face, illuminated as if in prayer. A prayer not for herself, but for mankind. Her eyes seemed to say that I was Earth's last hope. They begged me not to fail. Man, those are some deep talking eyes. And the Reverend is like, Galactus didn't even try to save her. He just let her die. Unfathomable are the ways of divinity, revered prophet. Did Alina not sin in defying the will of Galactus? And he's like, sin, my sister was as free of sin as the very air we breathe. It is Galactus who sinned, and I who sinned. I who dared to defy a devil. Throughout the word, viewers have witnessed televised evidence of the space god's brutality and destructiveness. People everywhere are starting to question, to wonder. And now there go. We have just learned that the prophet Caldwell has publicly renounced Galactus. Police have just found the bullet-ridden bodies of Mayor Fulger and his aide. It is believed they were killed by followers of Galactus. And of course, now they're like, how could anyone do such a thing? Those fanatics think they can justify anything in the name of religion. Now they question it. If Galactus is a god, then I'm turning atheist. He's so vengeful, so deadly, we'll never get out from under his yoke. We're all to blame. We brought it on ourselves. Yes, you did. Religion is one thing. Murder is another. This is still a nation of law and justice. What can we do, Mr. President? Galactus is too powerful to be apprehended. It would be folly to think of attacking him. It would be cowardice not to try. Summon the Joint Chiefs now. So, here we go. What are we scrambling for? We're going to waste us a god. You got some sick sense of humor. So, and the surfer thinks here, though the task seems hopeless, the mission impossible, not a man flinches, not a man wavers. Oftentimes I suspect that the spark of divinity which all humans seek glows ever unnoticed in their own naked breasts. For it is not divinity I seek at this fateful moment in time. It is justice, and though the query is mighty, Galactus himself, there are scales to be balanced, a price to be paid. And so we've got a couple vertical panels here. You could have saved her, yet you lifted not a finger, says the surfer. And so Galactus says, the female is no concern of mine. Too long have you lived among the irrational humans. You begin to think as they do. Though there are countless deaths each day, they mindlessly treat each day as if it matters in the cosmic scheme of things. And Surfer says, what gives you cause to say it does not? If life is the most precious gift of all, then is not its loss a matter of monumental consequences. And the surfer continues. Your blind disregard for other lives fills my heart with burning rage. Why was such awesome power granted to one as merciless as you? And you can see the surfer then shooting at Galactus. By what mad folly, for what dread purpose was created a Galactus? And Galactus says, have not predators existed since time's first drawing? And he tries to grab him here. Did not the same hand fashion the hawk as well as the dove? But enough, I weary of discourse. Words are empty, action is all. The tableau is ended, the prize is mine. Beautiful panel here. You have chosen your fate, my herald. That was. I meant you no harm, for Galactus bears malice to none. I know not why you chose to defy me or why you risked death so that others may live. But if such is your choice, so be it. The surfer shall soar no more. Oh, look at that. Ah, gorgeous. But suddenly he is being shot. His voice is quiet, devoid of emotion, cold as an earthly tomb. I resign myself to my fate, and then I hear them, the sounds of jet engines, gunfires, missiles screaming through the night. I tremble for them. Galactus can decimate the mightiest force on Earth with little more than a shrug. But he does nothing. Silent he stands, made invulnerable by the power beyond the ken of mortal comprehension. Oh, look at that. When finally he speaks, his words for me alone, his great voice, a little more than a pale whisper. They defy me no longer. You have turned them against their God. I planned to free them from their inhibitors, to remove all moral restraints. It was a matter of time before they destroyed themselves, but they worship me no more. Thus, the plan has failed. I grant you your freedom, Skyrider. Your death will avail me not. And he lets go of the surfer. Oh, this is just gorgeous. Wait, remember your promise. You have vowed not to harm them, to take no reprisals. Beautiful vertical panels here. Oh. And so Galactus needs none to remind him of a pledge once given. I go, for the hunger still gnaws. And so he gets on his ship here. But time is endless, and the future is mine. I shall yet return and taste triumph, for man's racial memory is so woefully short. As he takes off. Galactus is gone. Throughout the planet, everything seems to pause, as if the world is breathing a silent global sigh of relief. And then I am summoned to oh my god, what a big word. Session of the United Nations. And so here we are. As Secretary General, I speak on behalf of the sovereign states of this world's body. We are here to redress a monumental wrong. And so we were visited by two beings from outer space. One we mistakenly treated as a god, the other, to our everlasting shame, we scorned and vilified. But we have seen the light. It is he who calls himself the Silver Surfer, who is the true savior from the stars. And the surfer says, no, you are wrong. You must place no man above another. The spark of divinity is in all, or else in none. How humbly he speaks. He is the essence of true holiness. If not a god, he's surely a saint. You must lead us, guide us. We shall be your disciples. Oh, people. It is madness. Their third first leadership as a child thirsts for a mother's milk. Surely this is why they so often fall prey to tyrants and despots. Yes, this is a great commentator on human. This book should be up there with Watchmen and Dark Knight Returns. It is such a commentary on so many things. Why cannot they realize that the truest faith is faith in oneself? What has made them so desperate to have others show them the way? There's only one way to teach them, though it means becoming an outcast again, and yet it is a small enough price to pay. Very well, I accept the homage that you offer. I shall advise and guide you, and yea, even lead you to a path of glory. But first, hear my terms. My every command is to be obeyed without question, my every whim gratified, my every desire fulfilled. 1/3 of each nation's wealth shall be set aside for my personal use. I shall not be subject to any man-made laws. All shall rise when I deign appear. None may speak without my assent. He's changed. He rants like a madman. He's Power Man, no different than anyone else. He makes Galactus seem like Mother Teresa. And so all the people basically um, turn on him quickly. And there's like, no, don't listen to him. He doesn't mean what he says. Don't you see? He's doing this for us, for our own good, to show us. And also, of course, Caldwell's cry will be lost in the din. No mob has ever heeded a lone voice of reason, but I best leave before violence sets in. To me, my board. And the minister's like, don't do it, Surfer. Stay with us. We need you now more than ever. Mankind is mad. You're our last hope. It's too late. He's going. But why? Why do you do it? Why could you have you could have had it all. You could have been a god. A god. You threw it away just for us. And the tragedy is we don't deserve it. Oh. And so I ride my board. It matters not how far, it matters not how fast. I have no destination. I go where the wind of chance may carry me. I have known the heady exhaustions of victory. I have known the gnawing pain of defeat, but I shall never cease searching for the oasis of sanity in this desert of madness that men call Earth. For the worst fate of all, amidst the countless worlds and endless stars, it is to be forever alone. The end. Is this not an absolute beautiful, beautiful story? Oh my goodness gracious. This is just awesome. I'm telling you, this is up there with, as I mentioned before, Dark Knight Returns and Watchmen. The commentary that this story makes is absolutely great. And so I'm going to show you a little bit of the trade here. I love this. Stanley Presents Parable by Stanley and Moebius. That is funny. All right. So this is the part that I wanted to sort of read. It's just a quick one page. This is Stan Lee writing. It's amazing the things that can happen by accident. I ran into Gene Moebius, Gerard early in '88 at the Anaheim Book Fair in California. One thing led to another, and we ended up having lunch. Now, I don't want to sound like a typical starry-eyed fan, but I must confess that I've been in awe of Moebius' incredible talent ever since I saw a copy of his strip, Lieutenant Blueberry, many years ago. Then, after seeing other examples of his work done in totally different styles in such periodicals as Metal Hurlant, I knew that an artistic giant was in our midst. But how to reach him, how to find a way to work with him. Who'd have ever guessed a West Coast book fair would be the catalyst? At lunch, I told Gene, once you get to know him, he seems more like a gentle Gene than a stern Moebius, how much I admired his work, and he was gracious enough to say a few kind words about some of my stories he had read. Then it happened. Gene's friend and representative, Jean-Marc Leofficer, turned to him and asked, why don't you and Stan do a strip together? Before I knew it, we had enthusiastically shaken hands and promised to collaborate on a new project. But what project would it be? During our conversation, Gene mentioned that he'd found the Silver Surfer very fascinating. I smiled. It was what I'd hoped he'd say. The notion of him drawing the soaring Skyrider really grabbed me, especially since I've always felt that the Surfer style particularly lends itself to poetic lyricism and philosophical musings, and Moebius himself has the soul and the learnings of a poet-philosopher. So we found our next project. Next, we needed a theme. Sure, I've written lots of Silver Surfer tales since the first appearance of the Starborn Crusader, but this had to be something special, something different, something that would be perfectly suited to both the style and the temperament of the man who would create the illustrations. After days of soul searching, I recall The many letters sent to the surfer over the years, letters praising the fact that there seemed to be a quasi-religious tone to his earlier tales, a tone that his older fans enjoyed and admire. That was the tip-off, and it led me to and and it led me to a way to reintroduce Galactus, the godlike being who had fashioned the Silver Surfer, and to present him in a new and different light. It also allowed Gene to draw our world and its people as they might appear just a few years hence, something at which he was always excelled. We hope, of course, that you will find our tale enjoyable and exciting, but perhaps the most important difference between this and other Surfer stories lies in the actual conflict itself. Although the world is faced with a monumental life and death threat, and although the entire human race is menaced by the most unimaginable type of violence, the substance of our theme is, we hope, far more than good guys merely fighting bad guys, far more than crowding the greatest possible number of action scenes into one epic tale. If the conclusion of Parable you find yourself seeing some aspects of the world around you in a somewhat different light, if you find yourself contemplating the destiny of man, if you find yourself questioning some basic tenets a bit more than before, then maybe Moebius and I have succeeded in our collaboration. Now, as always, the final verdict is yours. Excelsior, Stan. This is a great, like I mentioned, Stan Lee deserves a little bit of credit for his storytelling. All right, the making of Silver Surfer Parable. So now this is Moebius, and so I agreed to do the Silver Surfer because it sounded like a very exciting idea, and because I had always wanted to do a real American comic. The project really took off when I had lunch at the San Diego Comic-Con with Stan Lee and Mike Hobson. That's when I agreed to do it. Stan is so full of creative energy that it's hard to say no to him. It was a typical publisher's decision, the kind where you say, let's team up Stan Lee with Moebius on the Silver Surfer, and it sounds like a lot of fun. We all got very excited, but I had no idea at the time how difficult it would prove to be. That's what happens when an artist starts thinking like a publisher. A publisher doesn't have to worry about those sort of things because he's not the one who's going to have to do the work. In this case, I had to and did, and it was very painful. Love this here. The layouts here. This is what eventually became the cover. So it's always very painful to do something that you've never done before and do it in a way that remains faithful to yourself. If I had done a quick hack job, one wouldn't be able to tell it was drawn by Moebius. As it stands now, there is no doubt that this book is a product of my own personality, but that's why it was difficult to do. But then I always like to put, and so it's going to continue here. I love the sketching here. Myself into a dangerous situation. Take risks, face the unknown. When you stop doing that, you stop growing as an artist. The Silver Surfer was possibly one of the toughest assignments I ever had. I had painted myself into a corner, and now I had to extricate myself from it. Before I began, I lived in fear, wondering what I was going to do. Until the very last moment, I had no idea how I was going to draw this book. I said to myself, I'm supposed to start in a month, then a couple of days, then 10 minutes, then 2 minutes from now. What am I going to do? When I found myself in front, some sketches here, of a totally white page, I had to do something. When I was working on a Metal Hurlant in the 1970s, I had seen Philippe Drouillet draw a story in a fashion that always fascinated me. It was a strip called the Vuz. Now, normally, Philippe was known as a very elaborate architecture full of intricate details, but Vuz was something very simple that he just drew spontaneously on a sheet of paper. It was almost like drawing a storyboard. I thought it was really wonderful. It really astounded me, and I never forgot that feeling. When I started on Silver Surfer, I remember Philippe's Vuz, and then spontaneously that he had achieved. That's something that helped me start. In fact, it would take some of the pictures I drew in the Surfer and pictures from Vuz and show the relationship between the two. And so we get the story. This is the first time in my life that I worked with a so-called in the so-called Marvel method. Stan gave me a fairly detailed plot, about 6 pages, but no breakdowns or dialogue. This was very unusual for me. When I do Blueberry with Gene Michael Charlier, he gives me a full script, even though I don't always follow it. It's follow it slavishly. Jodorowsky and I work on the story together in a very unique fashion, but again, I already have the visual elements well in place. This was not the case. I loved this way of working, and I think I will suggest to Jean Michael that we try to do our next Blueberry this way. It really is the way I write my own stories, except that instead of having Stan's plot in front of me, my plot is in my head. Laying out the sketchbook was part of the job I enjoyed the most. It was like drawing storyboards. I saw the story unfold in front of me. After laying it out, I ended up with 46 pages without the splash pages, which showed how good Stan was. I really didn't need to pad it down or cut anything. Stan didn't appear to be particularly surprised by my layouts either, which told me they must have been the logical result of developing all the information he had given me. I found the story wonderful. It's full of personal and philosophical considerations, which I think are very, very interesting. It's obviously something very close to Stan's heart. It's not all pretty and nice and shallow, like a lot of unusual superhero stories. In fact, I found it a rather sad and dark story, but at the same time, it is cast in a different light. When Stan gave me the dialogue, I was really impressed with the way he made all the characters speak, each with their own with their own voice. I had even drawn some Mr. Average guys, and he made them say the kinds of stupid things those people looked like would say. I could see when he had a problem. I could see when he had a problem because some of them some of my breakdowns and how cleverly he found a way to deal with them every time. His language is very poetic, very beautiful, almost theatrical in the best sense of the term. The story reflects a deep, very personal vision, that of a man who obviously feels quite pessimistic about the world and yet is able to temper that vision with idealism and hope. I think that a lot of these themes, loneliness, lack of understanding, fight for the truth, are deeply connected to Stan's life. I'm sure some people would have preferred to see more action, but personally, I think it's more interesting to see a comic book with a philosophical point of view. In many respects, I found Stan's story very modern, very political, and much closer to what today's young artists are trying to do. Real quick, I thought it had plenty of action. So, I mean, the first issue, not so much, but the second issue was chock full of action. So, I think it was perfectly done. After I laid out the story, I did some very rough pencils. I usually do more detailed pencils on Blueberry, but here I wanted to keep my spontaneity. So I only placed the shapes and figures, and then I worked directly in ink. Earlier in my career, I used to do more detailed pencils, but as I grew older, I'm more interested in obtaining the kind of spontaneity that can only get with very loose pencils. So is that in, oh, that was in one of the drawings before, so there'll be more. So here it is. So he went from this straight. That is cool. Stan plot. Scientists realize it isn't a comet. It's a gigantic spaceship. Terror spreads over the planet. That is that's awesome. Alright, the characters. My style is very erratic throughout the story. This is not too unusual for me. You find the same thing in the Inkall and the Blueberry books. My drawing style will be affected by the mood in which I am that day. Here, the problem was compounded by the fact that I lived in fear of not knowing how to draw the Surfer, and to a lesser extent Galactus. It is only the second half of the book that I began to feel I was starting to be in control. For the character of Galactus, if I hadn't had any pre-existing visual references, I would have drawn him more like a being made of pure solidified energy, with a mineral or bronze-like aspect. The main reason why I redid page 7 was precisely to emphasize this concept. Galactus materializes out of pure energy. He takes that familiar shape, which is shown to not be quite stable yet in the last panel. To me, Galactus is a concept, a principle, who only assumes a humanoid form to talk to men. To inherit such pre-existing visuals on a major character like this is both interesting and quite a challenge. The reader must obviously recognize a shape in which he is already familiar, yet also wanted to make him feel different about the character. I wanted to restore Galactus to the monumental aspect that I felt was intrinsic to the character. When I say monumental, I do not mean size alone. Galactus could be drawn very small and still be made to look like a true giant. I modified Galactus's proportions throughout the story to better fit this dramatic approach. On page 8, he has the city at his feet, and the Surfer would maybe only be as large as a fingernail, yet he takes him in the palm of his hand like a mouse. Those changes do not bother me because they're part of the mythical nature of the character. My Silver Surfer, on the other hand, defies gravity. He floats. Here, we enter a delicate zone between what is a conscious decision and what is purely the result of your unconscious. At first, I was terrorized by the idea. I was terrified by the idea of drawing the Surfer. There we go. Yet by the end of the book, he was the character that I most enjoyed drawing, the one who gave me the most pleasure. The idea of doing the Surfer made me nervous at first. Again, it is a character who did not spiritually emanate from me, but had been already formalized by other artists, such as Jack Kirby and John Buscema. They made him athletic, powerful, a warrior almost. I wanted to touch upon that aspect also, but without copying them. So, again, some more of his layouts. So I placed myself in a state of emergency. I knew I had to do it, and therefore I had to find a solution to my problem. It came to me naturally. My Surfer is imbued with grace. I see him very, very relaxed, elegant. He is so powerful that everything he does effortlessly, with grace. Even when he is wounded or desperate, my Surfer would do Tai Chi like myself. So, that's cool. So real quick, if I could interrupt, this is what I like about some of these trade paperbacks. It just gives you more than just a reprint of the 12 issues or whatever of the issues. Even with I guess I'm talking about modern. They give you a little more, and in this case, they give you a lot more. So, anyway, I'll continue here. If anything, this proves that Moebius isn't an artificial fabrication and affectation, but a true reflection of myself. By trying to do my best, I ended up doing Moebius. Of course, I'm sure that some people will not like my Surfer, but that's okay as long as they don't blame me for trying. I don't think anyone should blame an artist for choosing to keep or discard the certain forms to make room for the expression of his true feelings. Nobody should tell an artist that he should draw or not draw. That's totally unacceptable. In my case, I wouldn't mind if someone came in and did a totally different Blueberry. In fact, I'd find that rather interesting. I approved of Colin Wilson taking over the Young Blueberry series precisely because I felt that right away that he'd soon find his own path and do a Blueberry in his own style rather than copy my own. And so the redrawn pages. The pages that I redrew were not bad in and of themselves, but their concept was bad, so I had no choice but to redraw them. Strangely, I almost never have to do this when I do Moebius stories or Blueberry. This is yet another indication how difficult I found this job to be. My original page 2, for instance, showed that was going off in what I thought might turn out to be a dangerous direction. I was in danger of being neurotically obsessed with irrelevant details, which was probably a way of masking my own fear. The details and the close ups of the face of the astronomer were much too melodramatic if you consider that he is only a secondary character. This kind of work would be reserved for major characters like Galactus and the Surfer. I was doing too much too soon. Details are dangerous because an overabundance of details is a bad thing. It's like filling the page just because it's there and feeling that because you put a lot of details, you're doing a wonderful job, but that's wrong. Details must take into account the natural rhythm of the eyes, like breathing. Real quick, he must. I know that Jeff Darrow is a huge fan of his, but and that he knew because Jeff Darrow lives in France, but it just strikes me because Jeff Darrow puts so much detail into everything. So, anyway, details must follow the flow of the story and accentuate its strong movements. Details are like background music in an orchestra. You have the violins and you have the brass, and you must play with all these like a conductor to control the mood of the reader as he reads the story. When I redrew the pages, it was because I had a bad feeling about it. I was unhappy about something. That feeling led me to discover what was wrong with it. For instance, my original page 13, the original establishing shot of the roof, was not as clear as it could have been. The face of the candle in panel 2 is not consistent. I was also unhappy with Alina's hair on panel 5. I have always found it very difficult to draw good women's hair. It's made of very complex curves. Milo Manara does this very well, while almost every time I think I'm botching it up. So I went around the problem and I only drew the outline of her hair. On the other hand, I think that the shot of the surfer on his coat on panel 3 was superior to the original. He looked heavier, more mysterious, more threatening. I tried to recapture that feeling on a new page, but I failed. It's only recently that I found what I did wrong. I should have changed the proportion of his legs in relation to the rest of his body. That way, the eye would have caught that feeling of heaviness. So this must be the redrawn pages here. It's fascinating to be able to convey a psychic impression throughout the simple drawing of a silhouette. I redrew page 26 because I felt it created a hiatus with the style of the rest of the story. It was just too heavy, too dark, too engraved. I did some of the earlier pages in that style too. I had a little idea about where I was going that I began to ink more heavily. Also, my pen was getting worn down, and that contributed to it. It made it for a darker, more powerful rather than interesting look. But when I changed pens, suddenly it was like everything had lit up. My line became much finer, more elegant. That's one of the reasons why I enjoy working with pens and brushes. They change all the time. It's almost like working with something alive. So, yeah, it is very detailed, but it looks beautiful. Oh my God. He redrew this page. It's just amazing. And so one of the things is here, real quick, in the beginning I screwed up. I actually used, in my mind, I pictured it the way that I saw it, but it was actually Dean White who recolored the version that I chose. I'm going to show you before we're done what it actually ended up looking at in the original. But keep in mind that this process is not how it looked like in newsprint. I think that's why the Dean White version reminds me of how I figured the story looked like, because when it was recolored in the trade, the page is different, or in this case it's clear. So newsprint does, and he's going to mention newsprint here. One of my motivations for doing this book was to experiment with the limited palette of the newsprint color comics. I have seen reproductions of my graphic novel covers in Marvel Age, and I thought they looked different, but equally beautiful. I've always loved the softness yet garishness of a comic book colors. Maybe it's nostalgia, but I think there's a real beauty to it. It's like a new medium. Real quick, I love newsprint. We should go back to it. That's coloring the Silver Surfer that way was an enormous challenge. I didn't fully understand how limited this palette is, and I've since gained a great deal of admiration for the American colorist who can express full sentences and emotions with such a limited number of words. Of course, if I had been in New York and able to actually see the various dyes themselves, maybe it would have looked somewhat different. But I knew from the beginning that this was going to be one of the most difficult parts of the job, and therefore I don't have any right to complain. One should always learn to face the consequences of one's actions. So real quick, we're just gonna look at a couple of things, and you can see the coloring is. This is what he was meant, and this would have been the newsprint coloring, but I don't remember it this way, which is something. But the way Dean White did it is actually how I remembered it. So I thought, but look at this. This is just gorgeous. And this is then in newsprint. It looked a lot different than this, which is why I think that other version is the one I was thinking of. So anyway, just figured I would show you how this looked, or the actual original coloring. So look at that. This is just so awesome. And so we continue here. The lettering. To me, the lettering is a form of graphology. It reflects your own style and personality. A page of comics without text has its own personality, but when you add the balloons, it suddenly takes a whole new different look. For example, I was quite disappointed about the look of my pages on the Silver Surfer at first. Without the balloons, I thought they looked dull to drab. Then I lettered them and they changed completely. It became something complete, dynamic. The lettering brought it together. That's why I don't really understand how an artist can entrust something that important to a hired hand, no matter how good he may be. A letterer may be a professional, but he is very likely someone who stopped seeing lettering as something amusing, but just as another job. To me, it's It's monstrous to have an important part of the book of a page determined by an outsider. Even though I work digitally on my stuff, I hand letter stuff digitally, so I still use my own lettering. If an artist's lettering style is truly not legible, he should learn. I learned my own lettering from Hiji, who himself was very influenced by the American masters like Kniff. I do the best I can. My lettering is alive. It dances on the paper. It reflects my personality. To me, the only rule is that lettering should be consistent within its style. That is, all your S's should look the same, etc. In the case of Silver Surfer, my lettering on some of the pages, is not always as good as I liked it to be. Some days I felt tired, less able to concentrate. Also, I was a little bit handicapped by the fact that English isn't my mother's tongue, and maybe I rushed a little too much in places. But in spite of all these problems, I'd still rather have my own letters than the intrusion of someone else's style on my page. I really fail to understand how artists can tolerate this. The excuse of legibility is, I think, a very poor one. It is something that must be done away with. The reader can be educated to read any style of lettering. Comic strips prove it every day. The underground proved it years ago. Some of those people's lettering was terribly, barely legible, but the readers followed it. We got rid of this attitude in Europe in the early 1970s. Now every artist does his own lettering, which is coherent with the art, and it looks much better. I totally agree, buddy. Agreed. So here we go. This is it. This is the last page. I know this is a very lengthy video, but from a strictly academic standpoint, some might say that my Silver Surfer may be better than that of other American artists, but I think this is a very incomplete and arguable point of view. If you look at it with any kind of historical perspective, there's nothing that says that my work here, which may be interesting, but also very idiosyncratic, will remain. I think that the more genuine and direct style of those who work in comics day after day, maybe without large cultural references, but with honesty and innocence, stands a better chance. It's a little something like the old masters whose paintings were sometimes naive but carried the strength that has enabled them to survive the test of time. Also, I think I cheated somewhat. I came as Moebius, a big name star. I didn't really become part of the system. To do that, I I would have had to have done this book like any other American artist with an ink or a letter, etc. It would have been very interesting. As it is, it's different. It looks like an American comic book, but it's not really one. I think people here will say it looks European, and I'm equally certain that people in France will say it looks American. This comes from the fact that I didn't use graphic language that you find in typical American comics. There are certain ways of expression: the sky, the trees, the buildings, the clothes. There are millions of such things. Artists don't draw reality, they encode it. And it evolves into a logical, coherent system that readers learn to recognize immediately without even being aware of it. It's like Franquin in Europe. You see those big heads and round noses, and you just accept them because you're familiar with his graphic language. Or even before that, the drawings that the cavemen drew in Lusas, to them it probably meant a lot more than we can see today, because it followed their graphic language. It obeyed a symbology, and the only thing we see are stick figures. Anyway, here is the same thing. There's a graphic language to the American comic that I could have used, but I didn't because I'm too lazy. So I ended up doing it my way instead of forcing myself to fit into these rules, and let out another facet of my creativity. I think this book was gorgeous. So it still would have looked like Moebius, but a different Moebius. When I draw Blueberry, I'm conscious and very rigid, following a set of graphic rules that are particular to the Western, but the results is still mine. One wouldn't say that it looks like anyone else's style, but that would have required more time and more energy than I wanted to spend. My ideal is to reach a greater liberty and invention rather than fit within existing systems. But those have advantages too. It is possible to want to be in such a system and find joy in it. When I do Blueberry or work in the movies, I do not allow myself any excuses. I take it very seriously and try to do the best I can within that system. Everything is possible for an artist from the standpoint that he does it with joy, and that's like a discovery. So, all right. So, the Silver Surfer Parable, parts 1 and 2, Stanley and Moebius. This was just gorgeous. Absolutely gorgeous. So, hope you enjoyed it. Like and subscribe. I do thank you so much for listening. I hope you stuck out the entire part. But if you didn't, if you bowed out after the end of the story, I totally get it. Have a good day. Goodbye.